A joint investigation by the Belize Airports Authority, Civil Aviation and the Police Department is currently underway into the accident that sent a Tropic Air plane carrying passengers into the sea in Placencia. During liftoff just before 9 o'clock on Friday morning, the aircraft would clip a Subaru SUV near the end of the runway. The vehicle sustained extensive damage to the right passenger side, trapping an occupant inside. But the plane would hover for a few seconds before it came crashing into the sea some hundreds of feet away.
The investigation is still ongoing. But to tell you some basic facts, on the 17th of November, that was last week Friday, a Tropic Air aircraft departed from the Placencia airstrip, flight 3073. The aircraft had originated from the Bariboan Municipal Airport in Belize City and was going all the way to Punta Gorda. The aircraft, it's a Cessna 208 with 11 persons on board. That was 9 passengers and 2 crew. Departed the Placencia airstrip and then bound to Punta Gorda. In its departure, the aircraft came into contact with a vehicle, which caused the aircraft to ditch into the sea.
It was a frightening ordeal for those inside the SUV and the V3HGX caravan. Traveling at the time to Punta Gorda were Amanda Burgos from the Belize Audubon Society and a personnel from PACT, as well as Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber and Immigration Minister Godwin Hulse, who were heading for the opening of the PG Sporting Complex. Faber, who sat directly behind the pilot, recounted his experience, saying that he couldn't swim and was assisted onto the wing of the submerged plane.
I couldn't tell that anything was wrong when the plane was taking off from Placencia until we heard the loud crashing song, and then realized quickly as we continued to ascend that there was a problem, that something was terribly wrong. We ascended, I think, for another few seconds, maybe up to a minute, and then realized that we were going to go down pretty fast. I think the pilot lost the engine, and we then decided to brace for impact. All that was going through my mind was that this can't be real, this can't be happening, this is something that I'm sure everybody who rides one of these planes think about all the time, but you never really believe it's going to happen, and here it was happening. I really believe that the pilot did a very, very skillful job at landing the plane in the manner in which it did. That proved in terms of the physical impact on the passengers to be very, very, very little. So the landing was pretty much a jolt forward. Later on, we would see that produced a huge bump on the head and a burst even for the pilot, and for a few other people, including Minister Hulse, a bruise on the face. I was fortunate not to experience any of that. One little scratch, it's not even anything to talk about, was what I experienced. But later on, I would find out that, in fact, I did have some muscle spasm in my back, and also some tension in the forehead, and also on the sides of my face. Chewing for the next couple of days would be difficult. But the most difficult part of the ordeal for me was once we touched the water, and I will tell you that I'm a non-swimmer, so that became a problem for me.
In the immediate aftermath, the Tropic Control Tower received a call on the accident, and an investigation team was formed and dispatched to the scene. As the team worked over the extended weekend and remains on the ground today, on Monday the wreckage was extricated from the waters.
The aircraft has been taken out from the waters. The wreckage is out of the waters and has been placed into a confined area, so that the investigators from the Belize Department of Civil Aviation, in coordination with our Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation, can continue with the investigation.
It is known that there were several safety measures put in place to avoid collisions. Deputy Director of the Civil Aviation Department, Gilberto Torres, says that aside from the investigation determining who is responsible for the accident, safety protocols will be revisited.
The management and administration of all government-owned aerodromes such as the Placencia is vested under the Belize Airports Authority, and we coordinate with them on a daily basis to ensure that safety is never compromised And as such, there are certain procedures in place so that we can guard and protect arriving on the passenger aircraft. Yeah, as is in Placencia, there is a procedure in place. There are road markings, there are barriers in place, and obviously the general public should adhere to those or abide to these certain directions given so as to avoid a mishap that we had on Friday.
Upon reaching the airstrip, we stopped because one of the barriers was down, right? But we never noticed if the plane were landing or taking off. And upon reaching at the bump, we watched that we noticed that the plane was taking off and the next barrier was not down. And the driver just jumped the bump and just continued to drive completely around. And upon reaching the center of the curve, the right wheel of the plane just collided into the vehicle, and the plane just continued before it went down in the water.
Duane, Moody for News 5.